The facts, dates, and events presented in this video are from the member's best recollection and may not be fully accurate. This video is intended for entertainment purposes only. Always consult with your local union about your rights and duties at your workplace. The opinions shared on this video are our own and do not necessarily represent my employer's positions, strategies, or opinions. All views shared are protected under the National Labor Relations Act.
What is going on, everybody? So today I have Greg Kerwood out of Local 25 in Boston, and we got some information on the buyouts that pretty much leaked online today. Some people got letters in the mail saying, hey, do you want to take our UPS buyout for all U.S. drivers? And I'm a little shocked that this is even out there. I thought for sure that UPS was going to end this thing. It didn't look like they're kind of retracting from it, so then they sent it out. I did have two people in the comments, and shout out to the two people that left comments on this, saying that their division manager told them they were going to get letters in the mail, but there was so much chaos during that time, I didn't know the validity of it. So my apologies to the two guys that set that out there. But regardless, it doesn't matter because the numbers are out. What are they? $1,800 for every year of service and $10,000 minimum. Greg, let me hear your take on this.
Well, my take on this is that it's garbage to be expected. I think everybody, like I said, has that secret wish to be able to leave UPS tomorrow, which, speaks more to how they run their company than our members. But the reality is when you crunch any numbers, and I would suggest that anybody who's even remotely contemplating this do so, it just adds up to nothing. For the average driver, with health and welfare and pension, it basically works out to roughly 18 weeks pay. But then you have to consider that you're losing $14,000-$15,000 in health and welfare and pension contributions. And then on top of that, you got to pay taxes, which knocks the whole total for a 30-year driver down to like $27,000 that you're walking with. I mean, it's laughable. Aside from the legality and the all that argument that the IBT is certainly making, I don't see it making financial sense for just about anybody. I mean, if somebody's planning on quitting next week, I guess if you were planning on retiring a month from now, maybe it might be worthwhile. But if anybody who was planning on working even a few more months, it would be a bonehead move to jump at this thing.
Yeah, and reading through the comments and people's vibes on this is a lot of people are pretty much in an uproar. We're all on the same side that this buyout's a joke. Haven't really come across anybody that was like, this is a great deal, unless you're already out the door, like you just said, right? The $1,800, well, I know that pay is supplemental, but the way they came up with that number, I'm guessing, is that they take 45 times 40, and then you get 1,800. And to be honest with you, I don't know of a driver out there that only works 40 hours a week. So it's not even a full week's pay. And it is insulting in a lot of ways. With the amount of blood, sweat, and tears we put into this company, the frustrations, this job's not easy. And this is how they think this is good enough, right? It's kind of insulting. So Greg, what's your thoughts? Why do you think the company did this to begin with?
Well, clearly they want to cull the herd, so to speak, and reduce the number of employees, and they've done it incredibly on the management side because they don't have a union, and so they don't have any options. Now they're willing to throw it out there and roll the dice, and the reality is they don't have much to lose. If you do the math from their side, even if they're paying someone, again, 30-year driver, 56,000 or whatever, they're going to save 15,000 in a few months in health and welfare and pension contributions. So, 6 months, 8 months down the road, this buyout is basically paid for itself on their end. So they're really, it's not costing them anything to do this, and it's going to reduce, their labor costs or the people they have on their payroll or whatever it is. And then, it'll go back to them having the flexibility that they always talk about of whether they want to hire more people or not. As we've seen this year, they made a decision not to hire anyone, and they clearly don't care about the consequences of that to us or to the customers or to anyone else. And so, there's nothing to prevent them from doing the same. If people were to jump at this, which I would say, is not going to happen. they could just choose to say, well, we're not going to replace those people or whatever, and they have a contractual obligation to hire a certain number of people and create new jobs. But as with a lot of things in this contract, the company has no qualms about pushing things down the road, at least until the contract approaches its end. So to me, that's their mentality is this is short money to, give us control, let us do what we want with our staffing and our labor costs. And it's typical disgusting and cheapo behavior on the part of the company.
Now, do you think this is at all the company's ploy to try to prepare for the next contract?
I don't know what the company's plan is at this point. Clearly, they have just completely abandoned what has made this company survive for over a century. They have no interest in customer service. They have no interest in increasing volume. They have no interest in their reputation at this point, which is something that, and I know anybody who's been here for a certain amount of time, that was everything to UPS, certainly when I started. And now they just don't seem to care. So I don't know that they're all that concerned about the next contract. Not that they shouldn't be, but I think that at this point, this company is operating on a quarterly basis. And their only concern is whether they can go to the shareholders at the end of the quarter and say, look, profits are up. And Carol Tomei has taken the position that she's going to make sure that happens. It's addition by subtraction. She's going to cut and cut and cut to keep those profits inflated as much as possible. And, that's clearly totally unsustainable. And sooner or later, that's going to come home to roost. Now, whether she's still around when it does, or that causes her to leave, or whatever it is, again, in somebody in her position with the golden parachutes that CEOs have, why would she care? She's not a UPS person. She's just someone that came in from the outside, saw an opportunity to dismantle a company and make a fortune doing it. And that's what she's doing. So I think, it may be giving them too much credit to say that any of this is part of their plan for the next contract.
I gotcha. And then, I had someone leave a comment, and this is something that I think a lot of the younger drivers are concerned about, is that they've only been driving for a few years and they see all this chaos. Like, I mean, should they be concerned? And like, how would you prepare yourself in the future?
I can't say that's an unreasonable concern. If you had asked me 4 or 5 years ago, I would have said that, UPS was untouchable. I mean, it's basically between the handful of shipping companies, there's not a lot of actual competition as far as that goes. The pie is divided up and everybody's happy with the division pretty much. And, UPS had all the infrastructure and everything going for them. And they have the Teamsters Union and the professional drivers that come along with it. And so, it would have seemed impossible that that couldn't last for a long time. I still think it's going to. I'm not sure, again, what their end game is or if they have one. But I think at some point, someone is going to come to their senses, be it shareholders or whatever, when those false profits, start to run out because you can't cut anymore. Somebody's going to demand change. And I think the obvious change that people are going to cling to is we need to go back to the old way of doing things. The question is going to be whether that's feasible, having consolidated buildings and cut all the resources and things that she's cut, and how much damage has actually been done. It's a reasonable concern. I wouldn't go into panic mode just yet. I think, there's still very little actual competition. The packages have to be delivered by someone. Parcel volume continues to grow and will continue to grow in the near future. So there's reason to be concerned about it, but there's plenty of light at the end of the tunnel too.
I see this a lot as well. Some people were excited for the buyouts before the number was announced, but because they were hoping that the older drivers would leave and the younger drivers could take their place. I don't know about you, but in my building, in the buildings around me, is I'm seeing that when people retire, quit, or get fired, they don't replace those jobs. And I do know that some of the bigger hubs right now, they're having a situation where it's almost lopsided because they had the feeder guys. They close down the feeder routes. The feeder guys go back into the package, down the chain. But and a lot of these smaller hubs are seeing this. I mean, what are you seeing on your end?
Yeah, where we are, I mean, we are short-staffed beyond belief, simply due to summer vacations and things like that. I mean, we'll have to see the impact of cutting back on Amazon. The company is trying to shrink. For all intents and purposes, that's what she's trying to do is shrink the company, make it into some kind of specialized delivery unit that only handles high profit packages. And, that seems ridiculous to me and probably everybody else that works there, but the people on the board clearly think that that's a good idea. And if that's what they're going to do, it's not that easy to shrink a company, certainly one that has a union contract covering, 400,000 members. So we'll have to see how that plays out. I mean, there's really no answers as of yet.
Absolutely. And I know this spells a lot of doom and gloom for people. We do have a very strong union. The members are very strong. We make great money, and the reason being is because we fought for it. And when we come together, these are the results we get. And one of these days, I'm going to get into what Amazon's going through right now, because there's a very, very stark contrast between our work life and their work life. And I know this job's hard, and I know a lot of people hate it and everything else. But in the end of the day, I'd rather drive for UPS than Amazon any day of the week. So on the form that was mailed out to everybody, there's a website on there. Right now, you cannot access the website. It's not going to be accessed till tomorrow morning. That'd be Friday. Since we're talking about money, join the Teamsters 401k Facebook group. Greg Kerwood runs it. And any shout outs you want to give real quick?
Absolutely. I have to shout out again my brothers and sisters at Republic Services. Speaking of scumbag companies, this company just thinks that they're bigger than bigger than the people that work for them.
I'll put it on the screen right now. If you're in one of these locals, you want to lend a hand, call up your business agent, call up your local, and say, hey, where are these strike lines? I want to lend a hand. I'm sure those members would greatly appreciate it. That's all I got, everybody. Love you, and I'll see you next time.